Looks like I'm heading back to the Sonic franchise, which is saying something seeing as how it's been 2 months since my review on Sonic Lost World for the Wii U. But now that we're in March, I might as well give you my thoughts on Sonic Colors for the Wii, released in November of 2010. And the game's popularity really shows considering that it was the biggest Sonic event of that year. I don't know if 2011 was better for Sonic's 20th anniversary with Sonic Generations. In fact, I would give these two games the same score but for different reasons. Now I have watched the gameplay footage for Colors and it seemed promising to me. At first I thought it was gonna be boring because of its trailers, but in January of 2016 I finally got a copy of the game for about 20 bucks. I put the game inside the console and after playing it, I was hooked. Now while this game in terms of gameplay seems similar to the daytime stages in Sonic Unleashed, they managed to spice things up a bit with the controls, and I do consider this game to be much better than Sonic Unleashed for that reason. Now keep in mind I don't own a Nintendo Wii, but I do have the Wii U, so I guess I can review the game from there. And before anyone asks me, no, I still don't have a capturing device yet for this type of console. I promise during the summer I will try to get one, but for now, no capture card. Now that we got this boring excuse of a segment out of the way, let's begin the review with the plot of Sonic Colors. The story begins with Sonic and Tails entering an amusement park called Dr. Eggman's Amazing Interstellar Amusement Park, and I can officially say that in terms of its name and how it looks, it's miles better than Eggman Land from Sonic Unleashed by a long shot. Largely due to the fact that the developers of this game tried too hard to make it look good as possible. Tails begins to flash back on how it wasn't easy to sneak in the park, and the style right now is CG, probably one of my favorite parts of the cutscenes. We then cut to Orbot and Cubot trying to catch these little aliens called the Wisps, these little creatures that can help Sonic into gaining some sort of wild energy. Eventually Tails creates a translator that's in binary code which only Tails can read, and this wisp goes by the name of Yacker, and he tells Sonic and Tails that the wisps are being used for their magical powers by Eggman himself. Yacker tells Sonic that he needs to go through all the places in the amusement park in order to free the wisps, and Sonic does just that. Meanwhile, Eggman catches Sonic and Tails and proceeds to fire a laser at Tails, causing him to turn against Sonic. But it was no use. Anyways, after Sonic tackles through all 6 worlds, Eggman's machine starts to backfire. Eggman, however, has other plans. Meanwhile, Sonic and Tails notice that there is some sort of earthquake-ish problem, and they decided to head to Terminal Velocity, where Eggman has his last machine that's filled with all the wisps inside of it. But just when he's about to attack Sonic and Tails with it, Sonic pushes Tails into an elevator and proceeds to take out Eggman once and for all. And I gotta say, this boss fight is probably easier than the boss in Sonic Unleashed. To end the story, the Wisps go back to their home, ending Sonic Colors. Wow, how wholesome. Now, the plot is just your classic Sonic vs. Eggman kind of thing, and while it can be a bit cliche, it's much better executed than Sonic and the Black Knight or Shadow the Hedgehog, and I refuse to believe that the game is in its own franchise because it's already not. Now, gameplay-wise, well, let's have a look. Sonic Colors' gameplay is pretty similar to the daytime stages in Sonic Unleashed. Sonic can still boost, quick step, drift, slide, and perform the homing attack, and unlike Sonic Unleashed, you can activate it by a single button. Speaking of a single button, how are the controls? First, I'd like to recommend something. Personally, I'd use the Wii Remote sideways or the classic controller. And I'm sorry to say, but in my opinion, the Wiimote alone is much better to use, and I also do not own a GameCube controller. And the Wiimote and Nunchuk combination is pretty hard to use. You control Sonic with the D-pad, and if you want to jump, you press the 2 button, and if you got a Wisp capsule, you can boost by holding down the 1 button. And if you jump and press the 1 button at the same time, you can do an air dash. If you are in a curved section, you can hold down the D-pad and the 1 button to drift. And if you want to slide, you just hold down the B button at the back. And finally, for the Wisps, if you have one on you, you can just shake the Wii Remote to activate it. For these controls, I know what you guys are thinking, but Burster, analog controls are the future for 3D games. If you use a directional pad for a 3D game, then you are a complete retard. I understand where you're coming from, fine viewer, but honestly that's just how it is. I'm sure I'm not the only one who uses a D-pad to control Sonic in a 3D section. And I managed to complete this game with this type. What was I talking about again? Oh yeah, the controls are decent. That was a bit anticlimactic. Moving on. But how about the level design? The level design for this game can be a mixed bag. A lot of times you are either comfortable with it or you dislike it. Like in my other reviews, I am honestly in between. Now, don't get me wrong, the first few stages in this game are pretty breathtaking, from Tropical Resort to Starlight Carnival, and Terminal Velocity was pretty fun too. But as soon as we head to Planet Wisp to Asteroid Coaster, I found out that my hands were shaking frequently enough for me to put the controller down and call it a night. Now, when I say it is difficult, I am mainly talking about the S ranking in every stage and getting every single red ring in the game. Sonic Colors, without a doubt, is quite a pain in the balls when it comes to these two factors. I hated the situations where I missed every time it was too close to a red ring, and BAM! I missed like a clumsy loser woozer. Now what's the point of nailing every single red ring in each specific planet? Supersonic, of course. And to everyone's surprise, I actually unlocked him. But let's be honest, it wasn't really worth going through all this crap in the first place to get him. You can't even change into a Wisp while this mode is unlocked. The red ring problem here doesn't compare to getting every S rank though. I had to look up videos of people S ranking every stage in the game, and I had to copy their methods just to obtain the rank itself. I only got all S ranks for Tropical Resorts, so there you go. Now, all difficulty aside, the boss fights are probably the easiest part of the game. My favorites would probably have to be the ones in Starlight Carnival and Asteroid Coaster. But I'm only saying that because they have nearly the same style. The boss at Starlight Carnival has nothing but lasers coming at you, and the boss at Asteroid Coaster has big rocks coming at you at 2D sections. Now, while all the bosses are easy, the bosses, with the exception of the final one, aren't really original enough for my taste. The first and fourth ones are the same, the second and fifth ones are the same, except the fifth one takes place underwater, and the third and sixth ones are the same. So, in terms of originality of the bosses, Sonic Colors definitely took a wrong turn for that one. Well, I guess we can discuss Gamlen, which features all of the stages, and if you complete each of them, you can obtain a Chaos Emerald. That's of course assuming if you've collected all of the red rings in every planet. These levels are simple enough to get through, and they do remind me of the special stages from the previous games. If you have any friends that like this game as well as you do, you can play multiplayer with them and show them how good you are. You can also play as your Mii, which is a nice touch. The music in Gamlen can remind you of classic Sonic. Speaking of that, I think it's time we got to talk about the music. For a game that was released in 2010, all I can say is that this game had the best soundtrack of that year. The opening theme, Reach for the Stars, performed by Cash Cash, was awesome, and Speak With Your Heart by the same band is my favorite end music of 2010. The music within the stages are pretty dope as well, and similar to my review of Sonic Lost World, they seem to match the soundtrack with its atmosphere, and boy do I adore it a lot. However, we still need to address the DS version of the game, which was released on the same year as the Wii version. Short and to the point, it's just like the Sonic Rush games, and the entire game is 2D. However, there are a few key differences. First off, there is no trick system that the Wii version has. You can actually home attack on Wisp's capsules. The boss styles are nothing like the HD version, and the final boss is very challenging. Overall, this is without a doubt my favorite Sonic Rush game, and I highly recommend getting it if you have a DS and do not have a Wii. And now let's get to the conclusion. Overall, Sonic Colors is one of those games that treats Sonic the way that they should treat him. The level design is decent, the graphics are good, the sound design is nice, the controls are good, the bosses are easy, and the music is fantastic. But most importantly, as a Sonic game, it's a breath of fresh air to play. The story is a classic, the voice acting is cool, and the dialogue is entertaining to listen to. And I've been enjoying this game ever since I was playing New Super Mario Bros. On the DS. And no, I'm not comparing the two. While you may consider this game to be overrated, it is still an enjoyable experience and a great Sonic game. As a game for around 9 years ago, I highly recommend you play the game for your DS or the Wii. With that said, I'll give this game an 8.7 out of 10, and I'll give the DS version a 7.8 out of 10. If you're starting off with the Sonic series, then you should start with this one. It's most definitely worth your time. With that said, I am Burster MFG, and I'm signing out. Bye.